Alright, Shalom Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. And I'm finna do this video on the chief rabbinate. The chief rabbinate of what they call Israel. We know Israel is not a land, and that it is a people, and that the land that they call Israel is really the land of Canaan. You know, them Romans and stuff gave it the land Palestine, short for the Philistines and so forth. But there is no land of, you know what I'm saying, they can't use the name Israel to try to designate a land, because the Israelite is a people. Blood, flesh, flesh and blood. So, for them to try to use the rabbinate of Israel, for that land mass is what they trying to say, because they are not the Israelites, the people who occupy the land, besides those who came back under the brother Benjamin in the 70s, kind of fulfilling prophecies. But this is what I want to show, is how these two chief rabbinate institutions, got our heritage. And these two institutions govern the whole, what they call Jewish religion, and the Jewish people, and the people who consider themselves Jews. They have to go by what these chief rabbinates say, and these chief so-called rabbis are over just about every part that's important of the Holy Land that was promised to the Israelites that's in captivity. And the people from the transatlantic slave trade are the Israelites from the promised land that's in captivity. And I'm gonna prove this too. I'm gonna show this real easy. But check this out. The chief rabbinate. Look, the chief rabbinate, so-called, consists of two chief rabbis, and Ashkenazi. Look, got them at the top, and Ashkenazi in the Sephardi rabbi, also known as Rashon Li Zayon. All right, now that's some that's a whole nother era. They got different branches. That Rashon Li Zion gonna be nothing but the Sephardi rabbis that go back to almost to the beginning of slavery. I think they started, there's them that had came to the promised land, those Sephardis from Europe, from Nostradam and Amsterdam and them type places, where that slave money in the colonies started kicking into the Dutch and Amsterdam pockets, that them Jews own them banks, and then they was able to get their money up to start sending their people back to Canaan. You know what I'm saying? They original slick homeland, because they ain't nothing but Amorites, as I proved in the other videos. But the chief rabbis that run the Jewish cliques, that Judaism religion is gonna be the chief rabbis. They are elected for 10 years, and like I say, one of them is a Ashkenazi, and the other one is a Sephardi. And the one that is a Ashkenazi, his name is Yishak Yosef, and the one that is a Ashkenazi, his name is David Lowe. And them cats right there are splitting a heritage. You know what I'm saying? They got a heritage that don't belong to them. They have a heritage that don't belong to them. This is gonna be the Sephardi. This is gonna be the Sephardi one that's over the chief rabbi for the Sephardis, and this is gonna be the chief rabbi for the Ashkenazi. And I can show how both institutions got the Israelites, the real Israelites, heritage during the Babylonian Wars. Ashkenazi straight up got it during the Babylonian Wars under their name Scythian. You see, the Ashkenazi code name in history is Scythian. The kingdom of Ashkenazi was first associated with the Scythian region. You know, they real slick, man. They real slick with words. They real slick with words, and they'll try to throw history off by giving themselves a new name and stuff. You know, that's like the Scythians always been Ashkenazi, and the Ashkenazi always been the Scythians. And the Ashkenazis coming to the Israelite heritage under the Chaldeans. Under the Chaldeans, they made up the Chaldean nation, the army. You know, I got videos explaining how they was kicking it in Assyria, and then how they got real deep on Assyria, and then tricked Assyria out of its empire, destroyed them, played like they was friends with them, and then went down and got Assyria's enemies, and then came back with them and destroyed Assyria. And then I explained in the other videos how that Assyrian captivity, or our Assyrian troubles, the Israelites' Assyrian troubles, were basically a race war. You know, the Assyrians needed the Hebrew fighters to try to help them, to try to save them. And it didn't work because the Israelite nation, the northern kingdom, was on Egyptian and Amorite religion. So we didn't have no protection from the Creator. So the Assyrians got destroyed, and the people who came and destroyed Assyria came and destroyed us. And the Chaldean nation consisted of Scythians. They led the nation. They was in control of the Chaldeans, and they would come to the promised land and chase us out, because us Hebrews, we couldn't stop doing Egyptian religion. And then the Sephardis, how they got in our heritage, you know, their name is Sephardi. Now they the most serious people to get in our heritage, and you know, it's like a lot of people got in our heritage, but the Sephardis are the most important ones, because they are the Semitic people, the mixing people. You know, they'll get with some people like in the biblical days, you know, the Amorites. You know, the Sephardis are Amorites. The Sephardims are Amorites. And the reason I say that they are Amorites is because they come from Sephardim. And Sephardim is an Amorite founded kingdom and nation. You know, the Sephardims are from Sippar. And Sippar is a place where the Sephardims were from. You know, right there, Sippar. And then that's gonna be right here in on the Euphrates up here, you know, right close to where the Syrians held their power. And you couldn't get nothing done far as writing and keeping up with the histories, and everything associated with government came from Sippar. And Sippar is going to be the name Sephardim. You know, like I say, they try to change the words, to change the meanings, to try to distance themselves from their past. And they got the power to do that because they have been in control of Western civilization in its history writing from its start. You know, they are responsible for Western civilization history, and Western civilization history is Babylon, you know, and Babylon all the way west to the United States. You know, them people are responsible for all of its history, its meanings, and categorizing this, its law, its whole functioning of administration, dealing with governments. It's going to come from the Sephardims, and they are the founders of America. They are the first, you know, when they come from Spain. You know, that's like back in the days, you know, the Spaniards, Portugal was controlled by them folks. You know, Portugal right there. You know, Spain right there. You know, they real slick, you know, and they had always been going there. The Canaanites and the Amorites, from trading around the Mesopotamia, the Mediterranean, and, you know, from being over here and selling on ships, fooling with all them folks and going here and taking trade and stuff. You know, the Amorites had trade routes for thousands of years before us Hebrews was even a people or a nation. Well, they had an association with Portugal. You know, that's like in 70 AD when the Romans destroyed the Amorite Edomite temple that Herod built, and those Jews ran across North Africa. This is where they were run to. This is their spot, because they used to launch off from here and then go to all other kind of places doing trade. And then they did that up under the title the Phoenicians. You know what I'm saying? The Phoenicians ain't nothing but Amorites and the Sephardis and them folks, you know, that go all the way back to Babylon, Sipper. You know, Sipper right there. You know what I'm saying? And that's where they come from. Well, those people doing the transatlantic slave trade, you know, is when they kind of like really got they, you know, money going in order to send their folks back to the promised land. But, you know, let me explain this, how they created the religions. You know, Christianity gonna kind of like be an Ashkenazi hand, you know, because Ashkenazi took that, you know, those Sephardi Jews tried to sick them Jesuses out of Egypt, out of that Melchizedek school, and tried to go in and influence Ashkenazi that had settled in the Discopolis and Scythopolis and ran the whole Galilee in Discopolis area. Ashkenazi did after the Babylonian Wars. They settled in Beth Shean. Beth Shean is an old town that we used to have, and we never did just fully take it over. It was Amorites and all kind of Hittites and other folks that, you know, kind of lingered there and stuff. Well, them folks, you know, got a whole new crew when Ashkenazi came there, and Ashkenazi took the whole Discopolis over, and that's where, you know, Jesus was sent to them. Jesus was sent to convert and influence them Ashkenazis, you know, that had settled under the name Scythian, and they would take the whole Christian belief and story and flip it around and turn it into a religion, and they would use that religion to persecute the Sephardis, you know, the Sephardi groups, and take their power. Well, the Sephardi groups will turn around and create Islam to combat them. You see what I'm saying? Because it's like the Sephardic Jews flourish big time under Islam rule. You know what I'm saying? Under the Islam rule, the Sephardic Jews, the Sephardis had a good time. The Sephardims would be that branch, and they flourish good. And those gonna be the people that they, you know, the black folks called the Moors, that was in Spain, that was ruling the whole Europe. And Ashkenazi would come take it back through their Christian organizations. They've been having proxy wars like that since they created the religions, and people just been asleep. That's like when Hitler got to those Sephardi Jews. He robbed them Sephardi Jews worldwide. You know, worldwide. And Hitler had over 20, 30 Ashkenazi generals that was known Ashkenazi, you know, and that was stated, and had Jews in his army. And if any Ashkenazi did get hurt during the Hitler, the so-called Holocaust, is because they had a Sephardi mate. You see what I'm saying? So they went down too. But Hitler robbed them for Ashkenazi, and they got Ashkenazi in real good. Ashkenazi kind of like took over real good after the Hitler thing. You know, he was an Ashkenazi. Germany is an Ashkenazi Scythian homeland, as well as the Ukraine and Poland. You know, those are what Ashkenazi was long time ago, the Japhet family groups, and then how they would go and hang around the Black Sea and then go down into the Caucasus Mountain. You know, all this is right up around their way. You know, the Caucasus Mountain and stuff, right up in there, the Caucasus Mountain. And then them folks are, Ukraine and Germany. That's like they'll try to say Ashkenazi mean Germany. But we know that Ashkenazi name is an ethnic pointer term. Ashkenazi name is an ethnic pointer term. And Ashkenazi name was around before Germany was even a nation or a recognized landmass, because the Assyrians called Ashkenazi by their name. You see? And, they'll tell you, man, that, and his name is related to the Assyrian Ashkenazi, a people who expelled the Cimmerians. They was all partners. They would chase their people down into other parts, playing like that they after them. And then when they got to the spot, they'll rob everybody. They had all kind of old games going on. But this video is about the chief rabbinites. You know what I'm saying? The chief rabbinites of the Jews. You know what I'm saying? The people that we Israelites abandoned our heritage to. That's like the Sephardim. Sephardim covers Sephardi, Sephardic, and Sephardim. They got our heritage in 722 BC. In 722 BC is when they was placed in our land, secretly. But then it's kind of like, kind of crazy, because they really been there way before then, because they are the Amorites. They are the Amorites that we didn't chase out. The Amorites were mixed with the Moabites, and all the cursed people and the enemies of Israel will become one in them. They are responsible for the term Semitic, and they love to mix you. They'll mix you. Now they don't mix with the new nations and new peoples, but the old ancient tribes that the Israelites were told to get rid of up on our exodus from Egypt, when the Creator gave us a new culture through the prophet Moses. We were supposed to get rid of these folks right here. And they are the mixing people, the Semitic people, and they mix with the Moabites, the Ammonites, the Amorites, and all the people that the Israelites wasn't supposed to mix with or fool with become one in the Sephardis. And the Sephardis mix with all the people in Babylon, especially the Nephilims and Raphalims and the Hittites, Cain descendants, and the fallen angelic beings. Their history go all the way back to the Tower of Babel. They go all the way back to the Tower of Babel, because they are Sephardims. They from Sippar, and they was placed in our land, and they are Babylonian scribes. They are the scribes that was responsible for translating the Hebrew history and developing the myths that's been, prevalent today. The myths that done led to all the lies about the Israelite heritage. Them people kind of like been the main folks to put all the lies together, because they scribes from Babylon. Sephardim was a scribe in town. And then on top of that, they're Amorites. The Amorites, Murray founded the whole Babylon, area where they from in Mesopotamia. And then Assyria, would place them folks in our land. I don't know why they did it. I think, it was during the time when the Assyrians had a little influence over Mesopotamia. And then also this dude Sargon, when they was mixing folks around and stuff, they was hoping to lessen them folks' power by moving them people to another place. It's a whole lot going on why those Sephardims was placed in Samaria. Like I say, that they was Amorites from the beginning, but this is the most serious part of the Amorites heritage and people was when the Sephardims was placed in Samaria in 722 BC during our troubles with the Assyrians. And here it is right here. And the king of Babylon and the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon and from Cuddar and from Ava and from Hamath and from Sephardim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel, and they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. And then as you're reading, you know, you will see that them folks, you know, start to try to do our heritage. And then they was mixing they Babylonian tradition with our heritage. But they had knowledge of our heritage. And I can show you this, that they had knowledge of our heritage, because under King Hezekiah, this is like 7 years later. 7 years later, 7 years later, they would come to the Passover dinner. They would come to the Passover dinner under King Hezekiah. You know, he was trying to get all the tribes to come together. You know, we was taking a whooping and we was taking a beating and we was all messed up. Kind of like how we are now in captivity. We had that same state of mind. We didn't know no righteousness and we didn't know right from left. You know. But anyway, in 2 Chronicles 30, this is 715 BC. This is 7 years after the Sephardis was placed in our land. And then they came to the Passover dinner. And all the congregation of Judah, with the priests and the Levites, and all the congregation that come out of the land of Israel, and the strangers that come out of the land of Israel, rejoiced that dwelt in Judah. King Hezekiah sent for everybody to come to the Passover and was trying to get us united. This was starting towards to be the end of our stay on the promised land, because we was driven out, you know, 134 years after the Sephardi was placed in 722 BC. We was driven out in 588 BC. All the tribes was driven into Africa, but that 1% that was captured and taken to Babylon. And that's when Ashkenazi show up, because Ashkenazi are the people that chased us into the Africa. You know what I'm saying? That chased us into Africa. And that's how Ashkenazi got our heritage. But this is the thing about that. The prophet Noah, our great forefather, Prophet Noah, already had said that Ashkenazi would take over our heritage and how the Canaanites would be subservients to them. And guess what? It's just like he said today, because Ashkenazi controlled those Sephardi Jews. Them Sephardi Jews don't run nothing no more. They broke their old tradition and have to take on the tradition that Ashkenazi put on them. Ashkenazi did a reversion of our history that the Sephardis originally had and put their touch and they spin on it and then put it on the Sephardis, and the Sephardis been having to lay down with it. And they'll even tell you today that they have to follow the fractious way of Ashkenazi. But anyway, our prophet father Noah had already said that old Japhet descendants would be up in our heritage. And you know, and you can look right here. This is Genesis chapter 9, verse 27. And Yah shall enlarge Japhet, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. And then also, Prophet Jeremiah said that Ashkenazi would take over the Babylonian way, was really taking over the Sephardi Sephardim way, and then that come to pass. But our father Noah said that Ashkenazi would dwell in the tents of Shem. Back then, a tent was everything. A tent was like your mobile home. Man, you had everything in there. That's your house. So if Ashkenazi was going to dwell in Shem's house, then and Canaan was going to be his servant, that's fulfilled through the Sephardis, who are Canaanites still. You know, the Sephardis are still Canaanites because they are Amorites from Babylon. They are Amorites from Babylon, even though they lived in the Sepher, you know what I'm saying, the Mesopotamia area away from Canaan. But the Canaanite culture went all the way from Canaan all the way to the Euphrates, you know, and that's what the Creator told us to destroy when we came out of Egypt. You know, that's like this here. All right. Amorites. You know, the Amorites the Sephardims, the Sephardims are gonna be Amorites, because the Amorites are the founders of Super in Babylon, where they was from. You know, that's them. There's no way of getting around their Amorite heritage, and that they are the Amorites of the past. It's just that they the Semitic Amorites. They mixed with all the peoples and became one under them. You see what I'm saying? So it's like everybody kind of like got their hands in taking our heritage, since they represent all the ancient tribes combined. You know, Amorite is Sephardim. Sephardims equals Sephardi, Sephardic, and Sephardim. They're Canaanites. You know, Jebusite, or Amorites. You know, so this chief rabbinate over the promised land is a Sephardi. See, it's only two groups of Jews, Sephardi and Ashkenazi. That's the only way and reason why they have two chief rabbis, and these two chief rabbis lay down the law for those two distinct, separate institutions. You know what I'm saying? And them institutions go all the way back to when we Hebrews broke the covenant and ran into Africa for the Egyptians' religions. You know, I'm going to try to, you know, show a little of that history. But, you know, them folks, man, it's awful. And then they split our heritage up, and then they think ain't nobody going to ever know, and nobody was going to ever say nothing. Guess what? If it wasn't for the Israelite Brotherhood, separating Jewish history from Israelite history, you Hebrews wouldn't even have a chance to know the difference of where these folks come from, because the majority of the Hebrews right now today are on Jewish myths. You know, they think that all Jews are Khazars and that they just come into power not too long ago. Pure madness. You know, this is the real history right here. You know, this is the real history. You're going to get the real history from the Israelite Brotherhood. Okay. The Canaanite culture. You know, the Canaanite culture, 2400 BC. 2400 BC, Canaanite control over Babylon. 2200 BC. That's about 100 years with Prophet Abraham and them living around them areas and seeing that Canaanite wicked culture. The Creator told him to leave the whole Mesopotamian area and go back towards Africa. And we know that the promised land is on the African plateau. The African plateau is the whole promised land, all the way to Egypt and the whole continent. That the promised land is connected to Africa. It's northeast Africa. It's the most eastest point of the African continent, and that is connected to Africa and not those other land masses. When the continental disc moves and they have quakes and shakes, the promised land only shake when Africa shake. You know, all right, so the prophet Abraham was told to get back towards the African way, to lead it Mesopotamian way and get to Canaan, which was part of the African continent. All right, that's around about 2091 BC, and then, you know, we have his son Isaac, and then Jacob. You know, they didn't believe, they didn't believe in that Amorite culture that was around. You know what I'm saying? They believed in the Creator and not the culture that the Amorites had around them. You know what I'm saying? And that tradition we were supposed to had kept up, but we didn't. You know what I'm saying? We fell off. You know what I'm saying? So the Sephardis come in our land with the Assyrians placed them, and Ashkenazi gonna come in under the name Scythian with the Chaldeans. You know what I'm saying? That's like the you know what I'm saying, us Hebrews with our heritage from exiting the Egypt and coming into the promised land around about 1406. That's after the prophet Moses passed away and Joshua was leading the way, and we was coming into the promised land to the time that we was driven out in 55 BC. We only had about 800 something years in the promised land. And then those Sephardi Jews who really are Amorites really never left and been there for thousands of years, about 4,000 years today. But check this out. Them coming back officially being sneaking in, you know what I'm saying, in 722 BC to now is 2,740 years. They done had our heritage. You know what I'm saying? They done had the Israelite heritage. 2,740 years. And that's why everybody think that they are the Hebrews, because after 2,700 and some years of nobody opposing that, them having no contest with the history and nobody challenging them and saying that they not the Israelites, the world and basically accepted them as the children of Israel, and that's false. And then they really tricked the world when they sent those mercenaries around. You see, from 722 BC, and then they perpetrating to be the Hebrews, then they done fashioned a lot of false history, and then the people that were not in the Mediterranean area in Africa, you know what I'm saying, in Northeast Africa, if they didn't see us run into the promised land, run from the promised land into Africa during the Babylonian wars, and then it wasn't recorded, and then the Jews just kept that heritage, the Sephardi, as if they was Israelites from being at the Passover dinner under King Hezekiah, and then they just kept that heritage and then kept going with it, and then the people in the world gonna think that they was the Hebrews. They don't know that the Hebrews ran out the back door. You see what I'm saying? And that the Hebrews was the fresh occupants in the promised land, and that they didn't stay long. It's like we came in a brand new house. That we came into a house that some people stayed in, and we stayed there a little while, and then we left out the back door, and then did nobody know we was gone, or the other, like we came in the back door and we left out the back door, and the other peoples in the neighborhood didn't know that we was there. It's how our heritage was. You know, when we come out of Egypt, we came in the back door of them folks' territory, and then we left right back the way that we had came. You know, when we come out of Egypt during the Exodus, we went back that way into Africa, fleeing from the Chaldeans. You know, and then them people didn't have nobody to say nothing about that, because they were responsible for Western history already. The Sephardi were responsible for all the history of that time, and they didn't write about us going into Africa to do the Egyptian religion. So, you know, I mean, it's like the heritage was given to them. You know, our heritage was given to them, and you know, we messed up big time. And that's them folks right there, them Nephilims and Raphaelim mixed up with the Sephardim, and we know that they come from Cypher, and that they are Amorites, You know, the Babylonian scribes tricked the whole world on who Israel is, especially with the missionaries. When they created all them Bibles and them presses, because they was like the only scribes. They like the only scribes. You know, they like the only scribes writing books and history books dealing with the Bible. You know, because the people thinking that they are Israel, then the people ain't going to challenge them translating the biblical history, because they going to think, well, the Israelites translating their own history, is what the people mind gonna think, the leaders and the rulers back then. But they was tricked. They was tricked, because the real Israelites ran off and left everything to them people, books and everything. All right, then them people started writing books and histories, and then they created the missionary organizations, and then pass Bibles out to them, and then the missionaries go passing Bibles out all over the Eastern world, and everybody got a hold to the biblical history and knew about Israel. So then when they start, you know, seeing the pictures of them Jews, them folks that who are really not Israel, then they thought that they was Israel, and that's the way it's been going all the way from then to now. You know, it's messed up, man. It's messed up, but the truth is coming out. You know, like I say, the Babylonian scribes tricked the world on who is Israel, because when they passed them them Bibles out, and then they holding the Israelite title, and then the rest of the people gonna look at them as Israelites because they translating the history unopposed. And that's been going on since we been asleep. You know, for a long time. You know, we ran away from the Israelite history, you know, trying to get into Egypt, doing the Egyptian culture, because we said that it was better for us. And I'm also show that white supremacy gonna come off the Jewish myths, because if you see them Semitic peoples, and especially Ashkenazi, you know, the Sephardi Jews didn't try to point out that Ashkenazi wasn't the Israelites, because they both sharing a stolen heritage. You know, it's like two thieves, you know, broke in the house, and they both stole something. One ain't gonna tell on the other because the other one might tell on him, and then they both be exposed. So that's why come the Sephardis wasn't gonna tell on Ashkenazi and say Ashkenazi wasn't real, and plus Ashkenazi violent too. Ashkenazi probably would have really destroyed all of them real fast, and they knew it too, and they ain't been having no power to fight against Ashkenazi, you know, because like the prophet Jeremiah said that Ashkenazi would take over the Babylonian way, and then that came to pass. But white supremacy gonna come from the Jewish myths, you know, especially them Babylonian scribes created that Hamitic myth talking about Canaan turning black and with a curse and all that old madness, and that he's supposed to be enslaved and all that, and that started the transatlantic slave trade. It's this brother named Tony Martin. He go into good detail. He was a professor, and they destroyed him because he used state institutions to show that, you know, what they did to us in the slavery days. So they got rid of him real fast. Okay. Here they go. You know, they'll have pigmentation too, you know, because they Semitic. So they can take on any, you know what I'm saying, almost like a chameleon. You know, they can take on any skin tone that they want to and push their agenda and stuff. And them people, man, they had trade routes everywhere. They had trade routes everywhere. And then that's that chief rabbi, Haishyak Yosef, that devil. He said that, you know, the black folks are some monkeys and stuff. He had some old wicked stuff to say about the people of pigmentation, and basically in relation to us Hebrews. You know what I'm saying? He hate us with a passion. You know, them folks, it got pigmentation too. And that's how some of the Hebrews get confused, because they'll look at them folks with some pigmentation in the past, and they'll say, that's us, we Jews, we ruled everywhere, and all that old crazy stuff. You know, don't know nothing about real history. You know, some of the Hebrews, just about all the Hebrews, still on Jewish myths, and they ain't gonna learn no truth till they run across this Hebrew Israelite site. That's like, I wonder, man, how many of you Hebrews be watching the Israelite Brotherhood page and be learning some history, but you ain't subscribed yet? It's almost like you're stealing to me, because you should have been unsubscribed so you could stay informed with this history, so you could share this history with other Hebrews. Alright, Hebrews. The Sephardi Jews, the Sephardi and Ashkenazi, you know, they both share our heritage, and then they got it from us abandoning our heritage during the Babylonian wars. You know, that's like, let me show a little bit about Ashkenazi. Okay, I already showed who the Sephardis was, and we know that the Sephardis are Sephardims, and that if you type in Sephardim now, it's gonna translate into Sephardi. But one day they gonna change that. They ain't gonna keep letting that happen. They slipping big time right there, because Sephardims translate into Sephardi, and those are ethnic pointer terms. They'll try to say Sephardi means Spain. It means Spain is what they'll try to say, but you know, Sephard, they'll say Sephardi means Sephard means Spain. You know, they'll try to throw you off. And that's if you don't know that Sephardim is an ethnic pointer term. Sephardi is an ethnic pointer term. It existed before Spain. You know what I'm saying? That's like Ashkenazi existed before Germany. Everybody in Germany can't claim to be Ashkenazi and then claim heritage to the promised land. They not finna go for that. Those are ethnic pointer terms, but they been getting by tricking folks with it. You know, because the majority of the people that got the power kind of look like them. So they ain't finna try to unseat their own power by recognizing truth. You see, if the world that's non-pigmented, they got control now, recognize Ashkenazi and the Sephardis are not being the holy people connected to the Creator, then it kind of like take away their power. You know what I'm saying? Because white supremacy come off these folks right here, you know, the people thinking that they God chosen people, that the Creator chosen people, and that if this is Israel, then the Creator must, you know, not look too different and stuff. And that's false. All right, Ashkenazi. Ashkenazi name is Scythian. Ashkenazi equaled Scythians in history. You know, you had educated Scythians, you know what I'm saying? That's like us. You got rich so-called descendants under African slave trade here in America. You got rich ones, you got middle class ones, and you got poor ones. And the rich ones mostly got all the education and you know what I'm saying, and hoarded it to themselves. Well, that's the same with the Scythians was. It was different branches of Scythians. It was poor ones. It was some that was doing halfway good, and it was some that's doing extremely good. And the ones that was doing extremely good is going to be the ones that settled in our land during the Babylonian Wars. Like I say, the Babylonians destroyed Assyria, and then they made a beeline to our land. And then I got some history, you know, that I'm going to show when they came, and the prophets that, you know, showed them to come, you know, they said that they was come. All right, Scythian arrowheads was found all over Jerusalem during the Babylonian Wars. You know, man, I got history showing that when they burnt the land up, that it wasn't nothing but Ashkenazi burning the land up and chasing us off, because we said that we wanted to do some Egyptian religion. So the Creator sent for the worst people that we can ever imagine. And them people came and they burnt us up off the land. You know what I'm saying? And got us up off the land, and we were going to Africa, man, to live. You know, we were going to Africa, man, to live. All right. Jeremiah 52:13. And burnt the houses of the Elohim and the king's houses, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and all the houses of the great men burnt he with fire. And all the army of the Chaldeans that were the captains of the guard break down all the walls of Jerusalem round about. So, you know, them folks, Ashkenazi, did it. And that's going to be at the time where they shot the whole Jerusalem up. With arrowheads. And they shot so many arrowheads at the promised land and at us that some of them still being found today. You know, you got arrowheads, you know, Scythian arrowheads shoot Jerusalem up. Scythian trilobite arrowheads were found at Tel Megidim, Altalit, Medidigo, Kissin, Quashamona, Samaria, Tel Michael, Gezer, Tel Nahasheba, Jerusalem, in the city of David, Katif, Hinnom, and on the southwestern hill of Ashkelon, Ekron, Ashdod, Tel Basad. Man, they go on and on and on. They found so many Scythian arrowheads, man. Them folks shot arrowheads of all kind. I got a video just dealing exactly when Ashkenazi came into the Israelite heritage and all the different arrowheads that they shot at us to get us up off the land. I'm talking about a whole bunch of kind. And the Chaldeans burnt down the king's house. See, this really Ashkenazi. And the Chaldeans burnt down the king's house and the houses of the people with fire, and break down the walls of Jerusalem. You know, it was them, Ashkenazi, and they were sent in and to get us up off the promised land. And they were settled in Beth Shan, but it's called Scythopolis. Scythopolis. Ancient Beth Shan is where they were settled, but it's called Scythopolis. And Scythopolis is where the Scythians settled at. And the Scythians ain't nothing but Ashkenazi. And how about Jesus would deal with them the whole time, and that it wasn't no Hebrews in the promised land, especially where them Scythians was, especially where them Scythians was in Galilee and in the Decapolis cities. It wasn't no Hebrews there. So, Ashkenazi settled there, and that's what Ashkenazi settled at. And Ashkenazi came in on them horses. You know what I'm saying? On them horses, they had body parts on them. I got a video showing that the people that they captured and killed, how they would tie their body parts onto their horses and ride around with them. And when we seen that, we didn't want no parts of them folks, and how we would dip off, into Africa. And just before them folks had came to get us, up off the promised land, we was given a chance under King Josiah. See, we was on Egyptian religion. We was on Egyptian religion going all the way back to after Solomon's death. Solomon chased Jeroboam into Egypt. And Jeroboam come out of Egypt. Matter of fact, I got some history showing this, and then not too long recently, they just come out with the history showing that the same thing I've been saying for years, how the Egyptians tricked us Hebrews, and then guess what? The Jews saying it, and folks believe it now, and folks can see. But I've been saying this same history for years. I've been showing this history for years. This right here. I meant some history right here. Showed how the Egyptians corrupted us Hebrews and influenced us Hebrews so they could do trade with their relatives in Mesopotamia. They got a archaeological diggings and stuff that they done discovered. The Egyptians kind of like slick controlled us Hebrews and stuff. And man, I got a video. My video's going into that. Explaining how the Egyptians, manipulated us Hebrews so they can come across the promised land. They can come across the promised land. And they did. All right. Ashkenazi gonna come in because we did not follow what King Josiah did. King Josiah cleaned up the whole Egyptian religion. He cleaned up the whole Egyptian religion, and we were set free. We were set free of the Egyptian and the Amorite religions that held us captive in the promised land, that was stopping us from doing the culture, that Moses gave us. And we didn't, hold on to it, and we started slipping, getting on the enemy's religion. So the Creator got tired of us, and He sent for Ashkenazi. And Ashkenazi would come and chase us out chase us out the promised land. And this is gonna be the prophet that called Ashkenazi. It's gonna be the prophet Habakkuk. Man, it's gonna be the prophet Habakkuk. This prophet called Ashkenazi. It was over for us. He called Ashkenazi on them horses. We had been messed up. And then, if you go back, if I go back, man, I can show you, the whole history of how, with dates and timeline, when, when the prophet Habakkuk, gave his oracle, it was the call for Ashkenazi. We had a chance to be right, up under prophet Jeremiah. The Egyptians had killed King Josiah. It was over with. We was through. Our sin was real bad. But, just before then, Zephaniah was about over. We was on Egyptian religion. Everything centered around King Josiah. We had to follow his lead and keep what he had set in order. And that was the only way that we would have been free from the bondage that we in today. If we would have kept what King Josiah did, because he cleaned up the Egyptian religion and the Sephardi Amorite religion that we was doing. And then the Egyptians would come out and kill King Josiah. This old wicked dude here, Necho. Necho would kill King Josiah and put us back on the Egyptian religion. And then Ashkenazi would come and chase us off the land. And we would go into Africa and stay till the transatlantic slave trade started. And this is what we see on our way into Africa. We told the prophet Jeremiah this. Look, that land was empty when Ashkenazi came. This said the Elohim of hosts, the Yah of Israel, ye have seen all the evil that I have brought upon Jerusalem and upon all the cities of Judah. And behold, this day they are a desolation, and no man dwelleth therein. There wasn't nobody in the land, and this is what we see going into Africa. Then all the men which knew that their wives had burnt incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by a great multitude, even all the people that dwelt in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, as for the word that thou hast spoken to us in the name of the Elohim, we will not hearken unto thee, but we will certainly do so whatever thing go forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, our princes, in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty food, and were well, and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things, and have been consumed by the sword and by famine. All right. Them folks would come in after that. Ashkenazi, where they had already came in. Chased us off. It was over with. And we would stay in Africa till the transatlantic slave trade started. And then, them people who we abandoned our heritage to, these folks right here, that's when they institutions pop up. And then they will have fights against each other over our heritage, as how the religions that sprang off Judaism come about. Christianity and Islam, they both supposed to come from Judaism. And Judaism, them people think, are the Israelites. And that's wrong. And all them, stuff that come off of them is wrong and not true. But that's how they got our heritage, is doing the Babylonian wars when we went into Africa to worship the Egyptian religion. See, those Hebrews that went into Africa to do the Egyptian religion never returned home after the Babylonian wars was over. They never came back home after the Babylonian wars was over. When the Babylonian wars was over, and that little 1% that came home from Babylon, they never recorded the 99% that went into Africa to do the Egyptian religion. They didn't record them as coming back, being reunited with them. We are them, and I got history about the exiles, how the exiles from Babylon, that 1% was destroyed, and how prophet Isaiah prophesied that. Them people there got rid of the exiles. When they come back from Babylon, they start mixing, with that Semitic stuff. They start mixing, and then they got wiped out. The Greeks come in and put their lights out so fast that they hardly left no trace in history. And then us that was in the Sahara, because it's like I be trying to tell people all the time that Egypt is the Sahara. Egypt is the Sahara. Egypt is part of the Sahara. You couldn't have the Sahara if you didn't have Egypt in it. Libya is part of the Sahara, Niger, Mali, all right, them the parts where we was at, around these parts. During the transatlantic slave trade, they took us to these parts and then brought us west. And then that's like I show people that the people on the west coast of Africa that always been there before the transatlantic slave trade started, and that was there during the peak of the transatlantic slave trade, and then they're still there after the transatlantic slave trade, are not our people, and we are not related to them. But they try to tell us that we some West Africans, and that's why our heritage at is what the enemy want the world in us to believe. You see, we don't hardly know what to believe coming out of slavery. The ones that's lost and don't know their heritage, they believe anything that them folks say are right about us. That's the way that we are. We confused like that, and them people been taking advantage of that. And they try to say that we West Africans. So we can never claim our Israelite heritage. The whole thing going on with us and us fighting against our enemies, and we have to fight them on all levels, spiritual, physical, on every level you can imagine. They attacking us, and they don't want us to be Israelites, and they would rather for us to be Negroes, blacks, African Americans, and all them old curse titles, because their power lay in us being ignorant and the people in the world looking at them as Israelites. It's all messed up. But we gonna get it together, and we gonna show the world how we the Hebrews see the history that I show for the Israelite brotherhood. They can't come undo it. It's impossible to show that them Hebrews that went into Africa to do the Egyptian religion came back home to be reunited with the exiles. They had a chance. They can't even go create no history to try to say that happened. So we got them. The Israelite brotherhood got them. And all we need is for you other Hebrews to push this same history. You got to push this history, because if you don't push this history, any other history gonna fall apart, and it's a lie. It's no other history but the way that I'm showing it. How we Hebrews abandoned our heritage to the Babylonian scribes for Egyptian religion, and that's how the institution of the Sephardi Jews and the Ashkenazi Jews come about. They couldn't have had nothing. They wouldn't have had nothing, and they couldn't have had nothing if we didn't abandon our heritage to them for the Egyptian religion. It's like the Egyptians was our worst enemies, and that's what they try to push on us. That we some Egyptians. Y'all some Egyptians is what they want us to say. It was the Egyptian culture that destroyed us, because we wouldn't leave the Egyptian culture alone. As I showed you that, and we can verify this with the prophet Ezekiel. He'll tell you straight out that we was messed up with some Egyptian religion from the beginning. I got videos explaining why Egypt wanted us messed up. Ezekiel 32. The word of the Elohim came again unto me, saying, Son of man, there were two women, the daughter of one mother, and they committed whoredoms in Egypt, and they committed whoredoms in their youth. There were their breasts pressed, and there were their bruised the tents of their virginity. And the name of them were Aholah the elder, and the Abolah her sister, and they were mine, and they bare sons and daughters. This were the names: Samaria is Aholah, and Jerusalem is Aholah. Judah in the northern kingdom. We was messed up on Egyptian religion from the time that we left Egypt. I prove all this in the other videos. All right, Hebrews, this is where the two chief rabbinic institutions come from us abandoning our heritage during the Babylonian wars. That's how the Sephardis got in control, and that's how the Ashkenazi got in control. And we have to push this history. We have to push this history, because if we don't push this history and show this, then they're gonna stay in control of our heritage. And we have to show other people how we abandon our heritage is how they got it. You see what I'm saying? And that they are not the true Israelites, because it's a clear picture on what the Israelites did and how they broke covenant. Well, this is how the other people got the Israelite heritage, is after we broke covenant. That's how the Sephardis got it. The Sephardis ain't nothing but Sephardims. They was placed in Samaria in 722 BC. Ashkenazi come in with the Chaldeans under the name Scythian during the Babylonian wars. When we ran off into Africa, the 99%, them folks was still there. They were still there, as well as a whole bunch of other folks. I got all this in the videos. So the two chief rabbinic institutions that's in the promised land, They got an origin, and this is where their origin come from. They come from us Hebrews abandoning our heritage for the Egyptian religion. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Shalom, Hebrews.